lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. That's me. That's me, and you're stuck with me, so hope you guys are ready for a fun-filled adventure into the Paranormal Portal. I think I'm ready as I'm going to be anyway. I was just sitting here for a while, just like, wow, it's taking a long time. I don't know what it is. Before the shows, it just takes forever, and then suddenly the shows start, and I blink, and we're done. It's crazy. It's a time anomaly, I think. I think it's some kind of weird time-space bridge weirdness going on. I don't know. Anyway, hope you guys are having a great day. Welcome to the show. As of course always is the case, the phone number will be live and operational throughout the course of the show. So if you have something paranormal of your very own that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear from you. 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And you too can be a part of the Paranormal Portal, the Night Terrors episode. So, again, we did clear 5,000, ladies and gentlemen. We cleared it last night. I watched it tick up to that final one. It stuck at 4,999 forever. And I was just like, I'm refreshing like a madman. And then finally, I refreshed, and it was boom. And we did it. We made it to 5,000 subs. And now we're over that, of course. We're at like 5,000, almost 10, I think. It doesn't go up. Like, it goes up in spurts and trickles and spurts and trickles. It's just the nature of the beast. And sometimes it even goes backwards, which is really frustrating. It's like, no. So actually what happened last night is we actually ticked 5,000. And then about a half hour later, we were at 4,999. So I don't know what happened there, but we ended up finally hitting that 5,000 mark again in about another half hour, and it's just the way it rolled. But now we're over that. Let me look at the board and see where we're at now, just for the sake of mentioning it. But if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please do like, and please do share the stream. So we're at 5,006 right now. So we're a little bit over the 5,000 mark, which is nice. So hip, hip, huzzah. Absolutely, Cam. That's exactly right. Thank you, Marilena, and everyone else. Thank you to all of you. I guess you all helped make that possible. Each one of you in here, hopefully, at least the chatters, are people that help move that needle along. So I really appreciate it. And to those of you that like to kick back and relax and just listen to the shows, it's wonderful. It's absolutely brilliant and beautiful. You don't have to chat, and you don't have to do anything. But it sure helps a bunch if you do. Like, if you like the stream, that helps a bunch, because it shows an engagement based upon the number of views, how many likes you get. And, of course, the more likes you get per views, the more YouTube is liable to recommend it to other people that may be interested in the paranormal, which goes a long way in helping us. So, you know, there's all kinds of different levels of ways to help the show, but most practical and helpful oftentimes is just letting people know about the show. I think that goes the furthest in helping us along in our journey here. But anyway, don't forget, tomorrow, of course, is Wednesday night, and Don will be joining me, and we will be into 2 hours of paranormal fun tomorrow night. So tonight is still a Night Terrors episode, which is the shorter format shows. So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Thursday are the basically about 1 hour shows. And those are called the Night Terror shows, formerly known as the Bedtime Stories from Beyond. Because of COPA, or COPA, however you pronounce it, I changed it to Night Terrors because I don't want any confusion. This is not a kid's show. I always feel that it's family friendly, and that's good. But I do know that some parents listen with some younger kids. I don't know their exact ages, but there's some that happen upon us. But I'm not liable for that. I'm liable for ones that they think are kids programs, and that's what I got to avoid. So we called it Night Terrors, and therefore that should be a little bit of a deterrent to have your kid listening to that before bed. Just saying. But anyway, guys, welcome to everybody here and to all of you that are coming in now. I'm just thrilled to see the population rise every time I turn on the lights. It's awesome. And to any new listeners, welcome. Thank you so much for finding us and being a part of our journey. So, I guess that's all I have to say right off the bat. So I hope you're all ready because it's time for bed. All right, and I figure that tagline still works because night terrors are an experience of nightmares. It's another name for nightmares. I guess I could have called it nightmares, but I don't know. I didn't want to get too close to like goosebumps or something like that, so I think terrors sound worse than nightmare. But anyway, you're still in bed when it happens, so I can still say it's time for bed. All right. Let's get rolling here on the portal. I got some stories pulled up for you guys to keep you thoroughly entertained for the next 45, 50 minutes or however long we end up going. Again, the phone lines are open, so if you want to call in and be a part of the show, that's great. The number's above my head, right under the words Paranormal and Portal. If you want to help support the show, please head over to our Teespring store, and the link is in the description below, and you'll find all kinds of sexy Paranormal Portal gear that you could sport, and a few coffee mugs, some sweatshirts, t-shirts, lots of different shirts with the logo on it, and then we got some stickers, and there's going to be more stuff coming, and just amazing. So that's, again, teespring.com/stores/paranormal-portal. The link, again, is in the description below, so you can find it at any time if you decide that you'd like to check out some of the stuff. There should be an active link in there, but if not, just copy it and put it in a browser window. Otherwise, you can donate. You can donate to paypal.me/paranormalportal, or you can super chat if you choose to. If you super chat, those are wonderful as well, but I got to share some of that revenue with YouTube, who's happy to take a sexy 30% of it. And that's okay. I mean, I don't really mind, because I figure YouTube is providing a pretty incredible service and platform for us to reach out across the world, and so that doesn't come cheap, I'm sure. So, yeah, those are the options if you want to help perpetuate the portal outside of just spreading the word. It's available to all. So let's get started here, and the first stop tonight is going to be Texas, and let's see what's going on in Texas. I had to skip by a few stories. There was one that was one of those researcher ones that read like logbooks, which are not entertaining for this type of format. And the next one was having sex with a ghost, which I skipped right over. It's like, no. I do believe it happens. I do believe people have those experiences, but it's not something I want to talk about. I don't think. If it comes up in conversation, then we'll cross that road or that bridge when we come to it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to bring that into the show. It's just because it's one of those things that it's really hard to quantify, justify, or substantiate. And there's a lot of factors that you have to go, check into in order to qualify that kind of a spiritual experience. Because there's a lot of people that make a lot of pretty incredible claims, and I suppose that's true for anything in the paranormal, but I just try to stay away from the sexual stuff on the show because, quite honestly, it's like sometimes it's like reading a Penthouse forum, and not that I read them, but you know what I'm saying. It's just kind of feels uncomfortable, so I steer away from them. But anyway, Texas, let's see what's going on here. Between the ages of 4 and 7, I can remember occasionally feeling the presence of an older woman nearby. When she was near me, I would feel sick to my stomach with sadness. I had this overwhelming fear that my parents weren't my parents, like I belonged to someone else. Of all the things that kids are afraid of, that one had to be the most ridiculous. It seemed like the woman wanted me to know specifically that these were not my parents, but I never felt like she wanted to scare me. I felt it important to stress that the feeling of being displaced frightened me. But the woman herself didn't actually frighten me. I also vaguely remember the thought that I never heard her call my name. I was certain that someone was calling me when I would become aware of her. My mother asked me what the woman looked like, and she was insistent that it was her mother. To be honest, I didn't believe it was real. Even though it was happening to me, I never saw the woman. I only sensed her presence. And years later, when I saw a picture of my maternal grandmother, she actually was the woman I had felt near me as a little girl. I could never really describe her to my mother, but I knew her when I saw her picture. I never knew my mother's mother because she died about 15 years before I was born. After my mother died, I discovered that she had other children I never knew about, and I was the one she kept. And yet, interestingly enough, I never could shake the feeling that I wasn't hers. However, I can also remember feeling very strongly that I wasn't an only child either. There were times I simply knew, for no reason at all, that I had siblings, and I needed to find them. That sensation would come without warning and was always intense. All but one of them was already dead when I found out that they existed. The story would end there, but when I found my mother's dead body, it was accompanied by another presence that was so strong I could almost see it. It was an angry kind of energy that made it clear that it wanted me to die too. At least it felt that way to me, and it seemed so vengeful. I got the distinct impression as if an actual thought had been placed in my head externally that it wanted me because I was her daughter. Well, I generally heard the words repeating in my head, "You're next, you're next." And I felt it as if it were being screamed at me. I honestly thought that I was just freaked out because I had seen a dead body, especially the dead body of someone I knew so well. She died unexpectedly with the house locked up like Fort Knox, and I had to break in to get to her, and I just had a funny feeling that day that something wasn't right, and I had recently been to a funeral for a dear family friend, and the 11th anniversary of my father's death had just passed a few days beforehand. So I really thought a whole bunch of random freaky events that had occurred, and that death, with all its little weirdness, was fresh in my mind. Plus, it didn't make a whole lot of sense that something would want to harm me just because I was related to my mom. It became much creepier than when the sister I didn't know about until then and never actually met died young and unexpectedly a short time later. The minute I got the news of her passing, I immediately thought of the entity that I had felt and how it emanated such hate. My mother was odd, and I determined early in life that she had lots of things she didn't want to talk about. I never realized that they were bona fide secrets. I just assumed I just picked up her emotional baggage along the way, and it would be logical for her to drop hints and clues all over the years due to guilt. But then again, maybe I was tuning into something more sinister than guilt or her instability because I had tons of bad luck until she left this earth. However, after we moved her things into our garage, weird stuff happened in our home until we got rid of it all. The woman in my mother's family periodically had ghostly apparitions appear to them. That might be why my mom wasn't upset about me being aware of someone near me. I've never seen an apparition, but I've had several other experiences similar to this one. I've worked diligently in the past few years to lose this ability, and most recently, it has been 2 or 3 years since I've had anything happen. And I guess my questions are, is that really what my grandmother wanted me to know? Is there something else I should pay attention to when I think back on those accounts? Why do I stop noticing her presence? Did I really turn off all my sensors? Or will this happen again? And I think all the spooky stuff that surrounded my mom's death is easily explained, even though it was very scary. but I could be wrong and would welcome input. I'm still not sure that I think this stuff is completely right or real or whatever, although I've had other experiences. Yeah, I don't know what people expect from from these forums. They expect all these really in-depth, profound answers to, one little window narrative into their world. Who could know all those things? I don't know. Certainly not me. So I won't comment on it. Refreshing water. Okay, next one is Illinois. Let's head over to Illinois and see what's going on. I just want to know if anyone else has had something like this happen. I felt a poke on my shoulder at night in bed, and I share a one-bedroom apartment with my fiance. It's happened about 5 times so far, not in a row, however. I'm awake when this happens. This latest was last night. I got up to use the bathroom and came back to bed. I got settled. I was just adjusting something on my night table on the left shoulder. Poke, poke, poke. There are always 3 pokes. I've checked with my fiance every time, and he sleeps like a log. It wasn't him. He's not the one to play jokes, especially when it comes to sleeping at night. It's not the ceiling fan blowing wind. The windows are not open. My hair is short, so it's not my hair or a blanket. And we do not have a pet or a roommate. My father suggested a muscle spasm, and while that sounds very logical, I just feel it isn't. There are 3 distinctive pokes. It feels like someone's finger. It only happens once at night, and after the 3rd poke, that's it. I don't know what time it happens. My fiance has the alarm clock on his side. If anyone else has something similar happen, it'd be good to know. I'm not saying this is something supernatural, but I thought I'd throw it out there. So muscle spasms really can feel like pokes. That's just the way they work. It's not a general tightening of a muscle. It's a spasm. So it really does feel like something pokes you when you have those. I don't need to explain that to you guys, but I think that some people rush to the paranormal as an explanation, and I don't think you can. I don't think you can just rush to the paranormal as an explanation to anything that happens to you that doesn't feel what would be normal. It doesn't always come from supernatural presences. It's just sometimes our bodies twitch. Sometimes we get spasms. And that certainly could be a plausible reason for that to be happening to this person. However, I've felt the pokes before, and I've felt muscle spasms before, and I do know that there is a bit of a difference between the two. Usually, when it's happened to me, I've been able to tell when I've had muscle twitches, and I've been able to tell when I believe I was being poked, or at least it was such an abnormal twitch that it didn't feel like a normal muscle spasm twitchy thing. I've also felt, in fact, in this very studio about a month and a half ago, I was sitting here and I felt someone place their hand on my shoulder. I felt the weight. I felt the pressure of it. Not a forceful, but just like a resting of a hand on my shoulder. It didn't feel threatening. It didn't feel worrisome to me at all. It was just a reassuring presence, like, hey, I'm here. And I guess my assumption at the time, or my intuition, whatever you want to call it, says that I felt it was my father that was here. And that was his way of letting me know, hey, I'm here. And it didn't freak me out at all. In fact, I told Don, hey, another time, I told Don this, but this wasn't really a poke so much as I heard a weird vibrating sound in just my ear, and it kind of came and had a circular motion to it. So it wasn't just a in your ear kind of weird auditory phenomenon. It was a movement phenomena of movement. And so whatever that vibrating noise was, it was in motion, and it kind of went right by my ear and then right by. And that was right here in the studio as well. Both of those situations did not feel threatening or scary, but I did think that they were peculiar and odd, and they certainly weren't something I had experienced before last night on the show. I mean, it's just the way it is. So how do you differentiate? I don't know. I guess you got to follow your intuition on those things, because a poke really can feel a lot like a spasm, and a spasm can feel a lot like a poke. And I don't know. I guess if you also have some kind of indicator intuitively that that it was a presence, then I guess you got to go with that. And there's no harm in that. It's not harmful to think that maybe it is paranormal. But I think it's at least worth looking into the mundane. You always got to clear the mundane before you make any proclamations of paranormal. So I try to do that. And every time something has happened to me, I always look around for potential causation. And if I don't find anything, okay, well, maybe it is. I don't know. Just really cool stuff, though. The paranormal, you never know what's going to happen. It doesn't have a schedule. It just happens when it happens. So, all right, let's close this one. Let's get to the next one. Anything going on? Am I missing anything, guys? Are you enjoying the show? Rotman, you've done nothing productive today. Well, it's time to get busy, brother. What do you mean? You're listening to the portal. That's always productive. This is a productive show. Thank you, Julia. 720-923-0500 if you want to be on the show with me. If you want to share me some of your experiences, share them with me or with our audience. I'd love to hear from you. It's always available because this show is listener-driven. Well, it can be. I love it when it's listener-driven. I should say that. Okay, we're going to Minnesota. I'm just looking at the form of it. I just want to make sure it's not one of those researcher kind of things, but it doesn't look to be. And this has to do with demons, possessions, and exorcisms. So this is a little dark. There's one here. There's a little dark. Maybe. Let's see what it says. Again, whenever I see the word demon in paranormal discussion, I always think, oh, really? Are you sure? Because as I've said many times, I don't think people correctly quantify those as actually being demons. I think people jump to that because it sounds incredible. It sounds sensational. However, I don't think anybody wants to ever meet a demon. I don't think that that's a good thing at all. That can be a really, really, really bad thing in a hurry, not only for you, but for everybody you love and is close to you. So anyway, let's check it out. This is from Minnesota. It says, how does a haunting affect our relationships? Oh, no. It is one of those dumb ones. I can't say dumb. I can't say that. That's not fair. But it's a investigation team. I'll read it anyway, since I started it. But it says, Team Prophet was asked to consult on an alleged haunting a few days ago. It was a little disturbing to me and my wife, a fellow investigator. The story starts out as a special occasion for a husband and wife, an anniversary, a special occasion. These are both questions. We are not allowed to disclose to assure the privacy of the clients. The clients are your ghost members. They're also members. But a demonic force has other plans for the couple. Sounds sensational, doesn't it? They came home after dinner, after a nice dinner, and right away they realized there were items out of place. The wife noticed the items first, some with sentimental value to this particular occasion, and she has so many times before questioned her husband about the disappearance of the items that held sentimental value. He proclaims that he never entered the house after work, so he couldn't have moved the items in question. But she tends to vent on him first before rationalizing the issue, and this is our daily issue that is quickly dispersed with normal hustle and bustle of everyday lives and never amounts to more than a snicker or eye rolling, however, not acceptable behavior on a special occasion. Then it escalates. Both the husband and wife stated they felt a rise in the temperature as they get frustrated with each other's inability to find resolve about the issue. So they go to bed angry. Each one wakes up with bruises. The husband is swollen on the knee and sports bruises on the wrist. The wife has deep purple bruises on the back. This is not uncommon with a demonic haunting. What disturbs me is this: the ability of a demonic presence to push the right buttons for us to lose our own humanity. This was a special day and a very sentimental to both. However, all was lost to a simple act from a ghost that quietly watches in the dark, plays with the emotions at will. This demon pitted husband and wife against each other when they were at their best, and this just shows how each of us needs to stay focused on the prize and how vulnerable humanity is. Humanity is the prize, a toy for the demonic forces. Whether it's a sweet child laughing uncharacteristically at a squirrel getting hit by a car, or a dad ignoring his child when he is hurt. But it's a simple fix. The demon watches and waits to show his ugly head. And Prophet sends the couple off with this advice. One demon is never better than two lovers. Okay. I don't write these things, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I hope they were able to help the couple for sure, but that was a little campy. To me, I'm sure they'd like to get rid of their demon, though, but that's great advice. Oh, no. All right, continuing on. We're going to go to Michigan. I got family in Michigan. Should be watching me right now. I'm just saying. As some of you know, teens are very curious about things and adventurous. And, well, I'm both. I tried out something new a month ago. I have a friend that can read people, and she asked if I would try a reading on her. And, well, seeing an opportunity to have some fun, I read her. It was cool. I got most of the reading right, so I tried reading another friend that had a demon. And I know that a young girl like me shouldn't mess with things I can't control, but I read her anyway, even with the consequences. After I read the girl with the demon, I went right to bed. I fell asleep normally, but when I started to dream, I knew I was in for something. I started to dream, and I was standing in a room looking out into a hallway, and this little girl was sitting on the floor playing with a red-headed doll. I stood there for what seemed like hours, and while I watched her, I hadn't noticed the 17-year-old dude looking down over her. Well, I looked at him in shock, and he slowly turned his head, looked at me with an angry expression, and he jumped at me. Well, I woke up with a sore neck and a sore throat, so I talked to the girl with the demon about this dream, and she says that she had a doll with the same description when she was little, and that the little girl was her when she was 7. I'm not quite sure what happened. Was it just a dream, or was it something more? I'd like some answers, or at least some suggestions. I don't want to be labeled crazy for what happened. Yeah, that's weird. Could be coincidence, could be real. I don't know. Strange. Michigan again is the next one, and this one has to do with psychic phenomena. So let's see what this one is. I don't know if this is the same one that just wrote the last one, but not too long ago, I started feeling presences and hearing things. Doors would open and close in the middle of the night, and I would get up and no one would be there. And I would point to Samantha, a little girl that haunts me. But after a while, I started drawing odd things other than Samantha. But the drawings don't bother me as much as what I hear and see. Just a week ago, I was playing under the kitchen table with my kitty. And I was playing around and looked up, and I was looking down the hallway and saw a blonde-haired girl go into my room. I thought it was my mom at first, so I got up and jumped into my room, and I stared into the empty room and felt something or someone staring at me. I yelled out, "Hello?" Well, I let the subject go, and I went into my mom's room to watch TV. I started hearing voices, different voices. I got up and asked Mom who she was talking to, and she said no one was home. And I sighed and went back into the room and ignored the voices that started mumbling when I sat down. Every day I hear voices. Once I heard a girl's voice say good morning to me, and I smiled and got up for breakfast. Every day I feel different presences and hear voices, but I'm not sure if the house is a magnet or if I'm getting sensitive to the surroundings, or if I'm a magnet, but these things haven't happened before except a month ago. Can anyone help me with this? I'm not sure what's going on. Sounds like you could be coming into your own. This is strange. We'll read that one, and we'll read this one, and we'll read this one. Several new stories, ladies and gentlemen, for your listening pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. You can. I didn't mention that, did I, Julie? About emailing. There's, if you don't want to call in and be on the show, like that freaks you out, or it's a little intimidating for whatever reason. I don't know why, but some people get freaked out by that. Feel free to email me your stories. You can always do that by emailing paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. I'll be happy to read your stories for you, but I got to tell you, it's my favorite when you guys share your own stories because then we can talk about it. But if you want me to read it, I'll be happy to do that too. Okay, so we're going to Texas, and I have another story that's posted that mentions my maternal grandmother, who I never knew. And this story involves my paternal grandmother, who I knew very well. In retrospect, the following story is actually funny, but while these things were occurring, they were absolutely terrifying to me. Around the age of 9, I started having vivid dreams that were more like nightmares. From my earliest memories, I had difficulty falling asleep and staying there, so I tried not to pay attention to my dreams because I was never really sure if I was actually asleep. Even as a young child, I suppose I believed that my imagination was taking over. The dreams became more like premonitions with the exception of details that didn't fit in. For instance, I would dream that someone was going to die, but in the dream, everyone was wearing their pajamas and had blue hair. However, someone in the person's family would die within 5 days of my dreams. These bad dreams continued through my early 20s, and many of them were only dreams, nothing more. I'm a hypnotherapist now, and I'm pretty familiar with the dream state that we experience. So while some of these are spooky, they were also fairly normal in that we all have goofy dreams now and then. Yeah, I've had a few. Though through the years, some of these instances have been chilling and others have been foreboding, but none were quite as weird as the dreams I had before my paternal grandmother's death. She was in a nursing home in another city and had Alzheimer's for several years. Unbeknownst to me, she had suffered a stroke several days before her death and was in a coma. During that time, I had 2 dreams 2 days in a row that left me empty and cold. The first one was goofy and disconnected like all the other dreams I'd had in the past, but it was alarming enough to get my attention. Since I couldn't determine what it was about, it really set me on edge. The second dream was a little more comprehensible. I was in my own house, and an old woman was dressed in white, standing in front of the oven, and I didn't recognize her. She turned to me and said in a desperate voice, "Look at me. It's killing me. Look at me." And she looked like she was already dead. But there was also a young man with me, and who I seemed to know and connect with as if he were a brother. And I'd never seen him before. Right about now, I should add that I've never used drugs, and it's okay to laugh at this story. I wonder if that was her spirit guide, though. The next morning, my grandmother passed away, and it made sense. I didn't think anything about these dreams until a few months later, and I figured that was the reason for them, even though they were weird and disjointed. It made sense to me, and I learned about Grandma's coma, that she could call on us at will to prepare us for her death. If I'd known about it before the dreams, I think I would have been afraid. 3 months after my grandmother's death, one of her closest, dearest friends passed, and she was one of the kindest souls I've ever known. However, I didn't really know her that well and didn't maintain contact with her. I was actually closer to 2 of my grandmother's other friends. One Sunday morning, I woke up and never really stopped sleeping, and I started to have yet another dream that, not surprisingly, made absolutely no sense at all. I was in college when this happened, but in the dream, I was on a high school campus decorating for a school dance, and I'd walk into the principal's office to get something from a closet. When I turned around, I saw my grandmother coming through the doorway. I was happy to see her, but really surprised too. She put her hands on my shoulder and with a big smile proceeded to tell me excitedly that I'd be joining her in the fall. Not sure if it's an action or a season, and that it was beautiful where she was and that I would love it. But it wasn't my grandmother who was talking to me, it was her friend. That time, my dad got chills from my dream, and they got worse when his brother called that evening to tell him that this dear friend had passed away the night before. Since I was actually closer to some of her other friends, I assumed Grandma hopped in the closet, the closest vessel possible, to deliver her message. And I don't know if it matters, but she died during the fall season. I, however, am still happily alive 20 years later. Wow. That's pretty intense. 20 years later, still alive. Well, maybe that fall's still coming. All right, we're going to Georgia this time. Let me check the time. Speaking of time, we got time. We got plenty of time. Okay, good. This one's Georgia, and it says, I got off of work yesterday at 5, came home, and I took a nap. Well, I awoke an hour later to see a dark figure, a young man with shoulder-length black hair, sitting in the computer chair in front of the TV. I closed my eyes thinking it in one of my roommate's friends wanting to play video games, and I didn't think much about it, except when I woke up a few minutes later to say hello, there was no one in the apartment. I figured I was just dreaming again, which I do quite a bit. I went back to bed at 1 a.m., started to fall asleep, and found myself in a very familiar stage of twilight sleep. I got very cold and felt someone poking me, pulling my hair, tugging on my arm, and I felt the presence near, and then he began to talk to me, and I've had this happen before, and I'm always scared and unable to wake up, and I was screaming in my head for someone to wake me, and I felt the presence would hurt me, given the chance. He asked me to come to the other side to be with him. I answered, but I'm alive and you're not, and he told me I would die next week and that I would come to be with him, and I screamed, no, I'm alive. He told me his name, and we talked briefly. About what I can't remember. He wouldn't stop touching me, and once I finally did manage to wake myself up, yet I would fall back into the same place, and he would laugh and say, you can't get away from me. I won't leave here without you. I could hear other voices in the room, and one was pacing and cussing. Others were screaming at someone else, and there were deep growls and moans and laughter. And now I have these dreams all the time that someone is next to me, and he's evil and he scares me, but at the same time, I'm getting so used to him that each time I talk more and more to him. But as a child, I've seen many ghosts and talked to a few. I felt like I'm crazy, but I have had psychiatric evaluations, and apparently I'm fine with nothing but a bit of depression. I'm a bit disturbed that he told me I would die next week. If this is just a dream, then why do I feel him for real? And if he's among the undead, why has he come for me? I don't know. I wouldn't believe it, though. Okay, this one's coming from Ohio. A lot of shorter ones tonight, though. This says, looking back, I have to wonder if it was just a dream or if it was really real. Let's say it felt very real, and I've been hugged by many people in my life, but not like that. It definitely had a sense of forever about it, and in fact, it came from my dead father, only made it more meaningful. Dad took sick in 1999 and spent the rest of his life struggling to deal with his health issues, and he died in February 2001. He was usually stout, independent man who prided himself in taking care of others. When he was reduced to a mere shell of his former self, my heart went out to him, but to me he was still my faithful protector. After he died, a bit of me died too, and I missed him so much. I had seen him nearly every day and knew this time was running out. I hate to admit it, but I wanted to run away from what was coming. It hurt so much. Then a few weeks after he passed away, I had the most vivid dream I've ever had. I was sitting at a table with 2 chairs in a white room with no windows, only a door. At first I wondered why I was there. I didn't have a clue where I was. I wanted to leave, but all of a sudden the door opened, and my dad walked in, dressed in the clothes he was buried in. Well, time stood still for a moment. He walked over to the table. He sat down, and it was wonderful to see him again. He looked like his old self, not frail at all from his ordeal. He smiled at me, and I felt really happy, and I said, I wish I was with you. And he looked at me straight in the eyes and said, no, you don't. No other words were spoken. He got up from the table. I knew he had to go, and I walked around to him, and he hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would break. It was the best feeling in the world, and I didn't want to let go. And when I did, I was lying in my bed. I looked around the room, but he wasn't there. My body could still feel the squeeze from his arms, and I thought about what he meant to me, and that I was so glad that he let me know what I meant to him. That's really cool. Those dreams are so healing and so powerful. Yeah, that is so cool. What's going on in the chat room there, folks? Everybody having a good time? I'm having a good time reading to you. Oh, there's a phone call. Why don't I get to the phone? See who is calling me. And this is area code 701. You're on the air.
Well, I'll tell you a story about back in 19 How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing, man?
I am as fantastic as the universe will allow. Thank you for asking.
Mr. Naysay, ladies and gentlemen, is joining us on the horn right now. How's things in your world? You got snow?
Oh, yes, we got some snow.
Did you really?
I think the estimate was 9 inches.
Oh, God. Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah, and I got nobody around to put the chains on my wheelchair.
Do you got chains for your wheelchair? Seriously?
No.
I don't know.
I got a big old 4x4,
Oh,
6-inch knobby tire wheelchair in the garage.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So what's on your mind tonight, brother?
No. Oh, geez, let's not even go there, but let's stay with the theme of this evening. Thank you for taking my call. Long-time listener, long-time caller, long-winded caller. Ironically, one thing I wanted to bring up, for the last 2 days, I've had conversations with entities about ghosts, demons, angels, jinn, semantics. There's so many different labels,
Sure.
and I was asking her what her thoughts were about what if there are these entities that are so far advanced to us that they have total cloaking ability. I don't know if you remember Star Trek, I think it was called Annihilation, when they had this one where Data was wearing like a cloaking suit. Oh. And then at some point he went a little berserk and took his hood off, and so they show a head floating throughout the village. Yeah. But my ex-partner, she would get crazy when she would lose something. And it sometimes purposely seemed like, and we've joked about this together, that what if they're like entities that are like, oh my God, this dude named Brent, when he loses this one pen, he goes nuts. So come with me, watch this.
Nice.
And so they go to our homes and they move these things purposely because they want to see how we react.
Oh, I think the portal has got a whole amphitheater around it for spirits to go, hey, check this out. I'm pretty sure that happens here all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And when you get into the UFO and they talk about some of these extraterrestrial entities that don't have feelings like we do, and if they're here trying to study us to see, what is this whole feeling thing all about, wouldn't that just make sense that they would do such things like, interfere with a relationship to see the conflict resolution, or moving things to, make people go a little crazy every now and then.
Yeah.
Or even just touching us in the night when we're sleeping.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. I wouldn't surprise me even a little bit if that kind of stuff was going on. That wouldn't surprise me even a little.
Right. And that brings me into my story. I think I shared this with the portal before. I've had night terrors, or that whole thing when you wake up and you're immobile and you can open your eyes and you can't move a muscle.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 incidents of the old hag. Well, one incident that I've had in the last, I think I told you this off air. I don't know if I shared it on air with you.
Okay.
Or with the audience. But one night, over the weekends and stuff, I usually just sleep in my chair because it tilts back.
Oh, nice.
And it reclines me. And on the back of my chair, I have these like Papa wheelies,
Okay.
so I can't
Right.
flip backwards.
Yep. It'll stop
They're
you.
like an extra set of, yeah.
Yep.
And if I'm tilted back and if you push down on my chest, then it won't flip me backwards,
Okay.
but it will rock. Well, one evening I woke up, I have no idea what time it was, but I had that feeling that I've had before with the old hag where like it literally felt like something was sitting on my chest.
Oh, okay.
And then I tried to say something and I couldn't say anything. I literally felt that struggle of trying to get words out.
Mm-hmm.
And I threw out a few Anishinaabe words out. And then when I was like the first couple of syllables, like I could barely even get them out. But, as I started saying the words, they got stronger that I could speak the words.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, when the release of that pressure on my chest came off me, then all of a sudden my chair rocked forward that half an inch.
That's cool, but freaky.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, yeah, it was interesting about 3-4 days after it occurred, but the first 24 hours after it occurred, because we talked about this before, and since my father's ashes are in my bedroom,
mm-hmm.
it seems like things have kind of amped up a little bit more, in this last year. Oh, geez, 2 years now.
Wow.
Since my dad's ashes have been in there. So do these entities, when we leave this physical form, do we hang around? My ancestors say yes. My ancestors tell us that right after we pass, that we will take 4 days and travel around and visit all the people that have made impact on our lives.
Oh.
And just to let them know. And this occurred twice in my experience when my elder that bestowed my pipe and helped me with my name, and I always turn to for lessons. When he passed, the evening that he passed, my front door opened and my ex-partner was there, and it was late at night, and the door just opened, and she freaked out because she's like, I locked that.
Wow.
She's like, I remember locking it because the neighbors were having a party across the street, and sometimes when it gets too crazy, I've had people knocking on my doors because I live right next door to the college.
Mm-hmm.
And so she remembered locking the door, and she said it wasn't locked when she went to go shut it.
Mm-hmm.
And then right away I said to her, I wonder if someone died.
Oh.
And then the next morning I got the phone call from his wife.
Did that time
Corky
corroborate too?
Passed.
Did that time corroborate to after his passing?
Actually, I don't recall if I checked, with the time frame of it.
Sure. Wow. That's powerful, dude. Very powerful.
Right. But, I mean, we have this ability, I feel, that when we're children, that we are able to open up and tune into these things. But unfortunately, I think for most part in the American society, it's just kind of poo-pooed, and they're like, oh, there's nothing there. Right. Because both of my children, they talk about the sparklies.
Oh. But they're sensitive. And, your children are sensitive, though.
Oh, yeah. The oldest one at 16, I think she's not wanting to admit it, mm-hmm. because she's getting into that whole her own empowerment,
sure,
and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my littlest one, she was the one that would want to set food out for them.
Oh, wow.
We would catch her bringing little plates into my bedroom, and then and we'd be like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm feeding the sparklies." And we still do not know if we taught the youngest one the sparklies, because that's what Infinity called them.
Oh, wow.
And the Lewis one, we never could, we talked about it. Like, did we ever mention the sparklies to her, or because we didn't know how was it she came up with the same title
exactly.
as Infinity did.
Right. Oh, that's wild.
So I encourage people, don't poo-poo your kids. If they say something like there's something there, then, maybe ask them to elaborate and be like, well, what did you see?
Yeah.
Was it, like a mist or a fog or an entity, or, encourage them to share, because who knows, we might have some incredible sensitive children, and we're just teaching them not to be sensitive anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like slamming the door. No, you don't trust your own senses. They're wrong. Go back to bed.
Right.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's just horrible. And I know parents are trying to do the right thing. Like, they're just trying to assuage those fears, but they're basically saying, don't trust what you're seeing and hearing. And all it's doing is alienating a child that was reaching out for help. So now they know they can no longer come to the one person or two people that they wanted to that would always help them no matter what. So they're on their own.
Right. And may I ask the chat room a question, sir?
Sure, absolutely. The floor is yours.
You know how I'm kind of a fanatic about paying attention to the sunrise and the sunset and the moonrise and the moonset. Well, it was a new moon a little bit ago, and so now we have the crescent of the moon, and I'm asking the chat if they can witness the moon right now. And if you think of a face of a clock, is the crescent coming between like 7 and 4 at the bottom of the clock? So it kind of looks like a boat. And that's my question, because we're paying attention to it a little bit closer, because there's some really bizarre things going on with the moon right now.
Anybody in the chat, can you guys see anybody out there see the moon? The crescent moon, where's the crescent? As if it was a face of a clock. Let us know here. Naysay's been tracking this for years, actually, and so this is a big
and
part
on
of
the
his
East
research.
Coast, the moon is already set, but on the West Coast, it's probably close to almost setting, pretty close to the horizon at this time.
Okay.
But yesterday we only had 8 hours of moonlight.
Oh.
Wow. And I've never witnessed that.
Yeah, well, Ken,
I've never witnessed it below 9 hours.
Ken says it's daylight there. He's in Oz, but yeah. So we're not going to ask you, Ken. Thank you for that, though. Yeah, Cha-Cha says moon.
Right, but he should see the moon too.
Cha-Cha needs a little help with the moon, but it's that bright shiny thing up in the sky, Cha-Cha, at nighttime. Yeah, sometimes you can't miss it. Some people see spirits of sparkles in the atmosphere, so it would make sense for a child to see sparkles. That's from Amber in the chat room. Yes, exactly, Amber. And to be honest with you, I've seen sparkles all my life. I've never actually talked about that, but I've only seen a full apparition one time, but I usually see these little sparks or little blinks of light. So when Naysay was talking about that, it really resonated with me too. Let's see. Just outside, couldn't see it. Cameron says, keep your pants on, no mooning from Elaine. Nick Johnson's in Florida. The moon is half full with the bottom half visible. So it's Nick said,
then it is.
Yeah, it's in the bottom. It's in looks like the 3 to 9 is the bottom part is filled with that crescent. Okay. So, yeah.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate that chat room, as wonderful as always as they are.
Julia,
just as much as I appreciate you, my friend.
Julia says too cloudy here, but last night it was 12 to 6, the right side of the clock. So that's strange that it's moon crescent depends.
Does she say
as it passes the epochs.
What area is she in? Does she say?
Julia's right, like literally a mile or two from me, so she's up here in the north of Idaho. John Nelson says moon crescent depends. It flips as it passes the apex. According to John, Digger Dog.
Yeah.
Lewis wants to howl. Nick Johnson says 3 to 9 is what it's lit for him. He's the one that talked before. Yeah, so it looks like that's where it is, brother.
Okay, well that's following the pattern. So then the next new moon, I'm estimating it's going to be like between 9 and
okay
9 and 6.
Here's Mogi on Monster. It says, and he's down in Arizona. He says, from my view, it's 1 to 7 in Arizona.
1 to 7.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Right. So I don't know what that means, brother, but that's the chat report. And maybe Cha-Cha will find it sometime and let us know.
Right. And I'm putting it out there that the solstice may correspond with the coming up full moon.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'd be ready for.
So, but it's like I said, it's been odd, and maybe I'll give you a call about this later because I'm researching if everything is energy fields, and the claim of why we see the illumination of the moon is from the sun reflecting off the earth, and it's because the moon is so close, the light is bounding off the earth, and we can see the moon.
I thought the light reflection was from the sun hitting the moon, not the earth.
Well, when you I'm sorry, when you see the moon during the day,
right? Okay.
There's that double is occurring from the sun and from the earth.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You know, at night, it is definitely when the moon is, because the shadow is the earth.
Right.
And of course, I'm not a glober, and I'm not a baller, and I'm not a flat earther.
Sure.
I'm just happy that we're all alive on this planet.
Sure. Moog says correction. It might be 2 to 8, but it's in the more of a rocker position up towards up on the right, down on the left is what it sounds like as you're looking at it.
Right, but if it's all electromagnetic and our brains are electromagnetic, would it kind of make sense that if these entities, ghosts, whatever semantics, so if the sun is not giving direct sunlight, then that means there's certain electromagnetic radiation waves that are not hitting the earth. So could that possibly be, how they say about how the vampire couldn't go out in the sunlight?
Right.
Yeah. And could that be why he couldn't? Because the sun put out such a gamma ray that it affected him. And also the same with ghosts. Because I've experienced ghosts during the day when it's like cloudy days.
Mm-hmm.
But not super bright days,
Yeah.
So that'd be something interesting to know, because I know people have experienced ghosts during the days, but it'd be interesting to know if you notice way more activity at night than during the day.
Yeah, interesting. That's there is I think here's what I think, and we're kind of in overtime, but that's okay. We can do whatever we want. I do whatever I want. It's I think that there's many different multidimensional entities. Some of them used to be human, some of them never were, some of them are something else, like a cross-dimensional entities or whatever, or they just live in an energetic presence. But I know that Lisa Martin, who's a paranormal investigator that's been on the show, she was talking about how she doesn't use ultraviolet light anymore in her investigations because they were doing an investigation. She turned on the ultraviolet light flood, and they got an EVP that said it burns. And, I found that was very weird, so she quit using it. And then you talk about how there's different activity during the day versus during the night. And it makes you wonder if some of these transdimensional beings if they are maybe haunting places for people, but they are not actually ghosts in the traditional sense, but they are susceptible to ultraviolet light. So that is something I've been toying with myself. Not sure where to go with it, but it's very interesting.
Right. Or even cooler is, what if, because of those electromagnetic fields that are being blocked by the Earth, are allowing our electromagnetic brain to see these entities better?
True. There's that too. Yeah, it's hard to know how our brains are influenced by all these celestial objects, but I imagine they would be. It's all a matter of matter being affected by fields and waves. So,
well, have you ever noticed or talked to anyone that once they started seeing an entity, that if it progressed more and more, where they started seeing them? Because I've experienced that with people.
Yeah, generally. Yeah, I think that's a pretty common theme, is that once there's like one catalyzing event, and then after that it's just it seems to escalate. Generally, it goes to more activity.
Right. Well, remember to ward yourself. It's always the smartest to just make intentions and burn your sage or use your cedar, or whatever your tools are, of creating that shield.
Yes.
Because it's just, even if you don't believe me, what does it hurt?
Amen, brother. I agree. It might be just an
I will
exercise.
thank you for your.
What's that?
I'm sorry, there's a lag tonight, so I apologize. I'm trying to pause, and then I play that whole thing of, there's a pause, I got to say something.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay, brother.
But thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
You have a lovely night, sir.
You too, brother. It's great to hear from you, and give my love to the family.
You bet. Same to you. Toodles.
All right, good night. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Our own naysay, Mr. Kevin Shores from the Minnesota in the northern part of Minnesota. And he's always been a long-time contributor and friend of the show, so it's good to hear from him. It's good to hear from all of you. I think that's been a pretty effective episode for tonight. I hope you guys have all enjoyed it. I know I enjoy bringing it to you all the time. But make sure to check out the podcast. It'll be going out tomorrow, actually available after midnight tonight. Check it out. It'll be a good one. And make sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Paranormal Portal Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Paranormal Portal, PORTL. If you have an account of your own that you want to share, email us at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. And what am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. But I guess I'll be back tomorrow night with Don, and he and I will get into 2 hours of this paranormal fun we love so well. So I hope you guys will join us then. Again, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And on YouTube here, there's always a Paranormal Portal going on. So don't rely on your notifications. Don't rely on the bell. Just leave yourself a note that at whatever 7 p.m. Pacific time means to you in your time zone. But there should be a show coming on. If it's, it'll be right around 7 o'clock. Usually right on the nose, but sometimes I'm a few minutes late. Just depends on what's going on. But I will be here to entertain you again, I promise. Please spread the word. Definitely like, share, subscribe, but share these videos out there too, and let people have an opportunity. Share them on your social media, and let people see it for themselves. Just really in a feeling like I really want this to really grow now. We've been growing and growing and growing pretty incredibly, but there's a lot that we want to do now, and we just really got to increase our ability to get things done, and part of that just comes with a bigger crowd. So love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And everybody have a great night and sweet dreams. And we'll be back tomorrow night with more of the Paranormal Portal. Good night, everybody.